It seems like the multiverse is everywhere these days. You go to the movies, every new superhero movie has the multiverse. Even Google's new quantum computer might be tapping into other dimensions, into other universes. And if there are other universes, well then good news. The Yankees probably have a lot more than 27 championships. So let's peer through the wormhole and take a look at some deals that never happened in this universe, but might have happened somewhere else. Welcome to the Pinstripe Multiverse.
Just wanted to talk, that's all.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. For those of you who've been watching baseball for decades, you know that the Yankees are always involved in big free agents, in big trades, big superstars become available. The Yankees always seem to be in on it. But every time that one of these deals happens or doesn't happen, I kind of imagine another timeline veering off, like in Back to the Future 2, where Evil Biff gets a hold of the Gray's Sports Almanac. Anyway, I thought it would be fun to kind of talk through some of the major deals that have been rumored over the last three and a half decades that I've been watching the Yankees, and kind of break down where some of these alternate universes branched off and what could have happened in them. And of course, anything's possible. But I just thought it would be a fun exercise to see what would have happened if the Yankees did get Bonds when they were trying to get him, or if they did get Yoshinobu Yamamoto before last season. Maybe the World Series goes differently. And then we're going to have Julian Guilarte to come on and talk about some of the more recent deals that didn't happen and kind of take a look at the paths not taken. But first, let's begin with the alternate 1990s, a time when the Yankees were coming out of a decade in which they hadn't won a championship. They hadn't made the playoffs since 1981 when they lost in the World Series. And they were kind of at a low point as a franchise. They wanted to make some deals to kind of jumpstart the team back towards success. Now, they didn't know that they had a dynasty brewing in the minor leagues. And so they were in on some of the big-time free agents, specifically Barry Bonds, Greg Maddux, and a few others. So let's go ahead and take a look back at 1992 during the offseason, where one of these timelines branches off. In 1992, there were two major free agents that hit the market, Greg Maddux and Barry Bonds. Let's begin with Maddux. He was coming off of a Cy Young Award win with the Chicago Cubs. And if you watch the recent MLB Network documentary called One of a Kind, which was about Maddox's career, he said that he basically thought he had a deal with the Yankees. He was in New York. One of the executives had a heart attack. The meeting got moved, and the Braves ended up swooping in at the last minute, and he signed a 5-year, $28 million deal, which at the time was an enormous free agent contract for a pitcher, $5.6 million per year. But it ended up being an enormous bargain for the Braves. No question that today he would get $40+ million per season. And you see the numbers here, what he did with the Braves. He was with the Braves for 11 years, had 194 wins and a 2.63 ERA in that time. He won Cy Young Awards in his first 3 seasons with the Braves. Pretty good return on your investment there. He won 10 Gold Gloves with the Braves. He was a 95 World Series champion. He, of course, played for the Braves against the Yankees in the 96 and 99 World Series. Yankees won both of those, but maybe they win in 95. Their pitching in the division series that year against the Mariners was the primary reason why they lost. If they had Greg Maddux on that staff, maybe they move on, and maybe they're World Series champions a year earlier. Maybe they still sign Jimmy Key, maybe they still get John Wetland. The team would probably look a little bit different, or maybe it doesn't happen at all. Maybe instead of rebuilding with their young core that included the Jeters and the Riveras and the Posadas, maybe because they're getting an earlier start on the championship window, they trade some of those guys and try and get to the World Series a little bit sooner. But Greg Maddux not only would have helped jumpstart the Yankees' potential dynasty, but it would have hampered the Braves, and they probably don't make 4 World Series in the 90s without Greg Maddux. So this is one of those branches where in an alternate universe, things are very different. All right, so let's talk a little bit about Barry Bonds, a guy who's not controversial at all. By the time Barry Bonds was finished in Pittsburgh after his first 7 seasons in the major leagues, just 27 years old, he was already a 2-time MVP, a 3-time Gold Glove winner, a 3-time Silver Slugger winner, and recognized as one of the best baseball players in the game, if not the best. He had an amazing eye. He had 127 walks and a .456 on-base percentage in 1992, 34 home runs, 39 stolen bases, and of course, the New York Yankees were very interested. The Yankees offered Bonds a 5-year, $36 million contract. He ended up getting 6 years and $43 million from the Giants, and he called the Yankees offer, quote, insulting. I wish somebody would insult me like that. Perhaps the greatest player of our lifetime, but yes, riddled by scandal over the accusations that he did steroids. Maybe playing in Yankee Stadium with the short porch would have pumped his power numbers up that he wouldn't have needed to take steroids. And he might have been content with winning some World Series on a team that maybe included Greg Maddux, Bernie Williams, Derek Jeter, Mariano Rivera. It could have been one of the greatest sports teams ever constructed. Maybe instead of the Yankee dynasty being from 96 through 2000, they get Bonds and Greg Maddux. Maybe it goes from 1993 through 2000. Maybe it's more like the Bulls of the 90s, where they won 6 championships. There were some other moves in the 90s that didn't quite happen that would have altered history. The Yankees almost traded Mariano Rivera, their elite Hall of Fame closer, first ever unanimous Hall of Famer, for Felix Fermin, because they didn't think that Derek Jeter was ready to be a shortstop. Little did they know Derek Jeter was going to win the Rookie of the Year and go on to be a Hall of Famer himself. So that would have changed history. There was another one that I want to talk about in 97, but we'll save that for the voicemail because we did get a voicemail about it. And then in 1998, the Yankees were on the verge of trading for Randy Johnson during his prime, and the asking price was Hideki Irabu. This was according to Jack Curry in his book, The 1998 Yankees. Now, of course, the Yankees didn't need Randy Johnson in 98, 99, or 2000 because they won the World Series in all of those years. But he was still with the Diamondbacks in 01, where he signed after the 98 season. And if the Yankees had somehow managed to trade for him and re-sign him, maybe that 01 World Series goes differently. Maybe the Diamondbacks don't even get there without Randy Johnson. But Randy Johnson did come to the Yankees in 05, and it was a little bit too late, in my opinion. There was also this rumor that Pedro Martinez could be traded to the Yankees in 97. He ended up going to the Red Sox, obviously. And it turns out that the Expos owner didn't want to make a deal with the Yankees. Even though the Yankees offered a better trade package, he had no interest in working with the Yankees, and so he traded Pedro to the Yankees' biggest rival, and the rest is history. All right, so we got the 90s out of the way. Let's talk a little bit about the 2000s. There were a few deals in the 2000s that I think deserve some attention, and we'll get to the 2010s in just a minute, and then the 2020s. The 2010s I find infuriating, but in the 2000s, specifically after the 2000 season, Manny Ramirez was a free agent, as was Mike Mussina. The Yankees opted to go after Mike Mussina, and Manny Ramirez ended up being a huge foil for them in Boston. But I think that Mike Mussina lived up to his end of the contract. He didn't win any World Series with the Yankees. He ended up making the Hall of Fame. He went in as like multi-cap kind of thing. But I thought that Mike Mussina was fantastic with the Yankees. There was also the decision before the 2004 season to go after an outfielder. Now, George Steinbrenner wanted Gary Sheffield. Brian Cashman wanted Vladimir Guerrero. Honestly, Guerrero was probably the move. Yankees went with Sheffield. Sheffield had some good years with the Yankees, and he was one of the more memorable characters, some of the best bat speed I've ever seen in my life. The funniest part about him was that the third base coach used to play 3 freaking miles away because he didn't want to get tattooed with a foul ball from Gary Sheffield. Oh yeah, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. ended up winning the MVP in 2004, so worked out for him. Phil Hughes for Johan Santana was a major talk in like the 2006 time frame. He ended up going to the Mets. Yankees hung on to Phil Hughes. Hughes had some decent seasons. I think Johan Santana was pretty good with the Mets, but nowhere near the dominant pitcher he had been with the Twins. He did throw a no-hitter with the Mets. And Phil Hughes was okay, so I'm not really going to rant and rave on this one too much. Just kind of a move that, you decide not to make and you live with the consequences. The big thing of the decade, the big alternate timeline branch, if you will, was Aaron Boone tearing his ACL while playing a pickup game of basketball after the 2003 season, after he won the pennant for the Yankees with that home run off of the late Tim Wakefield. That led to Alex Rodriguez becoming a Yankee. Now, if A-Rod doesn't become a Yankee, who knows what happens for the next decade? Yankees probably don't win in 2009 without him, but who knows how the team would have looked, dedicating that salary elsewhere. I liked A-Rod's tenure with the Yankees. I thought the end of it was kind of embarrassing for him, but I'm not going to complain about 2 MVPs. I wish he had done better in some of his earlier playoff appearances. Aaron Boone's Yankees career was over at that point, but maybe if he sticks around and plays a couple of more years with the Yankees, maybe they would realize they shouldn't have hired him as manager. Only kidding to the Aaron Boone defenders. All right, let's talk about the 2010s, because I feel like there were a lot of missed opportunities in the 2010s, and some of these really grind my gears. So first of all, they had a chance to trade for Cliff Lee. Obviously pitched great for the Phillies in the 2009 World Series. Yankees had a chance to get him from Seattle. He ended up going to the Texas Rangers, where he beat them in the postseason again. Yankees wouldn't part with the prospects to get it done. And then they had a chance to sign him as a free agent. He ended up going back to the Phillies. I'm glad that one didn't work out because his contract ended up being a mess. But the trade you would have liked to have gotten done. Probably would have got the Yankees a World Series. There was also the Justin Verlander situation, where he was at the end of his tenure with the Tigers. The Astros went out and traded for him. They unlocked him analytically, and he ended up beating the Yankees in the postseason a couple of times. Now, the Yankees were in on Verlander. They wouldn't take on the money. They wouldn't take on the money in that deal, and because of that, it probably cost them 2 World Series, right? You hear the Steinbrenner family and Brian Cashman talk about championships. Well, there were your championships. They could have had multiple championships if they had Justin Verlander. I will take that to the day I die. And then they went out and traded for Giancarlo Stanton in 2018. Now, they had just had Aaron Judge hit 52 home runs in 2017. By the way, what if the Astros didn't cheat in 2017? There's a whole nother timeline. That's a whole nother video we could talk about. But the Yankees go out and get Giancarlo Stanton, and arguably that made them too right-handed for the next several years. What they really should have done, and I'm not discounting what Big G has done for us in the postseason, but let's be honest. If you wait a year and you get Bryce Harper, the team's probably a little bit better off. They're more balanced. They got a big left-handed bat. Imagine last year, Soto, Judge, Harper. Right? They also had the opportunity to go out and get Manny Machado. They could have afforded to get both Manny Machado and Bryce Harper in the same offseason. They decided not to. Now, Manny Machado, I'm kind of glad they didn't sign. I'm not sure I love his act. He seems like kind of a dirty player. But Bryce Harper, there's probably never been a guy who's more perfectly suited to be a Yankee. And that one just really grinds my gears because I feel like he should have been that guy. So, little rant cam. This goes out to Brian Cashman. When there is a clear and obvious fit for a player to come to the Yankees, that's not a bad thing. I know that you said you didn't like the aura of inevitability that Bryce Harper was going to come to the Yankees, but that inevitability was because he was such a perfect fit and he wanted to be there. When the Nationals came to town, he shaved. When he came to Yankee Stadium, first time he'd shaved all year. He wanted to warm up to the fans. He wanted to show the Yankees that he's willing. You think Bryce Harper, a student of the game, and a beard haver like myself, you think he doesn't know the rule? He did that on purpose. He was advertising that he wanted to be a Yankee. He had said it when he was a kid in high school, a top prospect, that his dream was to wear the pinstripes. He wore 34 because it adds up to 7. Mantle was his dad's favorite player. Mantle was his favorite player. I just think that this is an all-time bonehead move by Brian Cashman, overthinking the room. This has been a rant. All right, let's talk about the 2020s. Now, the 2020s obviously still going on, so there's plenty of time for screw-ups, but the ones that jump to mind so far, and we'll talk about this with Julian in just a minute. Corey Seager. Yankees could have had Corey Seager at shortstop. He won a World Series with the Rangers. I know he's had some issues staying healthy, but won a World Series, and he came up big in that World Series. His left-handed bat would have been exactly what the Yankees have needed for the last several years. Yoshinobu Yamamoto. The Yankees went hard after Yamamoto. I feel like that's one of those branch points. Now, you can look at this one two different ways. Number one, he had shoulder issues in his first season with the Dodgers, but he had pitched some big games in the postseason, including against the Yankees. So maybe the playoffs work out a little bit differently if the Yankees have Yamamoto. And then also Juan Soto. You went out and you got Juan Soto. Yankees probably wouldn't have been as good last year without Juan Soto, but they gave up a lot of depth to get him. And then they tried their hardest to sign him this winter. They offered him $760 million. That's insanity. I never thought the Yankees would go that high. I guess we'll never know how the two timelines will diverge, but we'll see what happens with that Soto contract moving forward. I don't think it's going to be a great contract for the Mets, but it wouldn't surprise me if he wins a title or two in the next 15 years just because Cohen is going to spend. And from the looks of things, Vladimir Guerrero is going to be a free agent, and I can see him fitting in nicely with the Mets, especially since he hates the Yankees. So, we'll see how that timeline shakes out. But let's get to the conversation. My guest today is a social media presence. He is a reporter on the Yankees. His name is Julian Guilarte. He's been on the channel several times before, and we're going to talk about the path not taken for the Yankees on many of these moves. All right, you guys all know this guy. This is Julian Guilarte. Did I say that right, Guilarte?
It's Guilarte, but it's tough. It's all good, brother.
Sorry, mine's not so easy either, so I sympathize. However, I wanted to have you on because you're super, in touch with the Yankees Universe and all the reactions on social media, people clamoring, let's go get this guy, let's go get that guy. And then when it doesn't happen, or the Yankees lose out on somebody like they did last year with Yamamoto, like they did this year with Juan Soto, social media goes crazy. So I kind of wanted to talk to you about what are the moves in recent years, maybe the last, I'd say 10 years, that bother you, that where you feel like if the move had happened and had gone in the Yankees' favor, maybe we have a couple of rings by now.
Okay, well, the one we could start with that directly impacts us around that time frame when the Yankees were ready to win was not trading for Justin Verlander and getting Sonny Gray instead. And that was a money issue, if everyone remembers correctly. They didn't want to go over the tax again, which is what we might be dealing with right now. But to go back to then, they take the cheap route. They get Sonny Gray. I liked that move at the time, but Verlander was definitely the guy I was looking for. Even though there was some talk he was on a decline, and so much decline, he ends up making a second half Hall of Fame career with the Houston Astros, gets 2 World Series championships, one of those directly many of those directly going through the Yankees, but specifically 2017, that season, it goes to Game 7, despite all the trash can nonsense or whatever. You could throw it out the window for a second. And if the Yankees had Justin Verlander, they're obviously going to that World Series, and they may even win it. And who knows, they might even have another one after that.
Yeah, so the one I was just ranting on is Bryce Harper. That's for me the killer, because I feel like he wanted to be a Yankee when he was a kid. I remember when he was a prospect, right? He was 16 years old. He was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. I'm in a hotel in San Francisco. It's like 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm running on the treadmill. And Sports Illustrated is right there, and I see the headline. And it says, like, the next great one or the chosen one or something like that. So I pick it up, and I'm reading it while I'm on the treadmill, and my eyes are bouncing. And I'm reading about this kid, and they're talking about how he's hitting 570-foot home runs and all this stuff. I look him up on YouTube. I see all the, gigantic blasts that he's hitting in the Tropicana Field Dome and stuff like that. And so I became a fan, and I followed his whole career, and I was just waiting for him to be a free agent. And I thought, remember he shaved when they came to Yankee Stadium? He shaved. He wanted to be a Yankee, Julian.
He really did, and that one really hurts a lot. For me, I felt like it was almost a foregone conclusion he was going to be a Yankee with free agency. Hey, I was waiting like you. I felt the same exact way. I'm like, this guy's swing is made for Yankee Stadium. He wants to be a Yankee. He's been waiting for this for a while. It's a good fit for several reasons. And then the crazy thing about that is that he was even willing to play first base. Then they said they didn't think he could do it, and now we're going to play first base.
Right? Yeah.
It gets even worse because it possibly got.
He's a phenomenal first baseman, too. The other guy from that time was Manny Machado. There was some thought that the Yankees could get Harper and Machado. They ended up getting neither. They actually seemed more interested in Machado at the time. If you remember, he came to Yankee Stadium, and they had the big sign up on the Diamond Vision, welcome Manny Machado, and he was wearing a Yankees hat and all this stuff. There was footage of him leaving Yankee Stadium in a limo, and then you got people on social media saying, "Oh, they definitely got him. I got all these sources. He said he's going," and then he doesn't go there, and it was. But honestly, that's one that doesn't crush me because I've always felt like he's kind of a dirty player. He didn't feel like a Yankee to me. Do you agree?
Yeah, but third base has been an absolute disaster in that time period. So you may have. I do understand what you're saying. It's definitely Harper over Machado if you have to pick between two. Machado definitely hurts, but I do get that he's not exactly Yankee material, quote unquote. There's a couple things that's a little bit different about him. His play in the field would have enjoyed the fans. Oh, they would have loved that. Defense, offense, it would have really fixed the whole third base. At the time, Andujar was still looking good. I think that's part of the problem. They didn't know obviously everything snowballed. He got hurt and all that. But Manny Machado was a generational third baseman, so that kind of sucks. And then the Bryce Harper issue was 6 outfielders, but 3 of them we knew weren't good. So that was always really, really just not good at all. Yeah, that
was peak excuses. Portion of Brian Cashman's career. It was excuses not to get somebody rather than let's go find an excuse to. George was all about let's find an excuse. Let's find a reason to go get Roger Clemens, right? Let's find a reason to go get these guys, even though we're already winning. Cashman would always find a reason not to make a deal. And I feel like that's been kind of the difference between him and some of the other GMs that have put their teams over the top. Yeah. Another one that bothers me that I want to ask you about, Corey Seager. Obviously, won a World Series with Texas. Now, the Yankees do have Volpe. I know a lot of people, myself included, have said that Volpe looks like a prototypical second baseman. And I think if you had Seager at shortstop, Volpe at second base, that's an unbelievable defense. And, those guys could have been the keystone combination for a decade.
Seager, I'm extremely torn on. I did kind of see him as Yankee material, too. He definitely fits the Yankees for, a lot of different reasons. He's a very quiet guy. The only thing is, I don't think he would have liked the New York media. He's really not soft-spoken. I think he could have handled it, though. He's a very good hitter, obviously. His defense is a little bit up and down for me. I mean, Volpe, I still think is pretty good. Just want to see the bat come along a little bit more. But, overall, do the Yankees win the last couple of years with Seager in a lineup, and let's say Volpe was gone? I mean, maybe, you never know. The other thing is, you could have gone the Matt Olson route if Anthony was still in the fold. It would have been a big chip to get Olson, which would have been huge. I'm torn on that one a little bit, but I understand it for sure.
All right, so let's forget about the alternate universe and look forward in this one. 15 years from now, what is history going to say about the Juan Soto deal that happened this winter? Obviously, the Yankees went to $760 million. I never thought they would even go close to offering that much. And if you had told me back in February they're going to offer Juan Soto $760 million, I would say, well, he's a Yankee, But $765 to the Mets. I mean, you can make the argument that over the next 15 years. Cohen is likely to surround him with other players because he's going to spend, right? But you never know what's going to happen in this life. What happens if Cohen has financial? I mean, obviously he's got a lot of money, but what if he has financial issues? What if he has to sell the team, or we saw Jeff Bezos have a divorce and have to give a lot of money, Bill Gates. You never know what's going to happen in somebody's life that could force business decisions to be different. What if he gets scammed by another Bernie Madoff, right? There's no guarantee in life that him going to the Mets is going to yield championships. But then again, if everything goes according to plan, I can see them surrounding him with a Vladdy Jr. next year, filling in with the best pitchers here and there that are available. But how do you think that this contract's going to age?
You made some really good points there. Like, how do we even know Cohen's even going to own the team in 15 years? Like, that was like one of my thoughts when he signed the deal. I think Cohen was like, I'm in it for the long haul, but like, you never know what's going to happen. Like you said, like it's such a long time. Like
rich people get bored.
That and the fact that like some of those does have the opt-out after 5 years, but like I doubt the exercise is there. And there's like the way they could tack on more money, like kinds of how the Yankees could have did the extra with Cole, but decided not to. That whole thing was really weird too. But with the Soto stuff, I mean, I gotta think, man. I feel like it's gonna be okay. I think it's gonna age bad at the back end of the deal, probably. Are they gonna win a championship? I mean, not next year, but eventually I'll probably give them one just because of like the resources they have. Maybe at least one. I don't know if they're gonna build a dynasty because like that doesn't really happen anymore, except maybe the Dodgers. Hopefully not. But other than that, it doesn't really happen anymore. Maybe so. Like I think they get one ring for him at least, but I think the last 5 years are gonna be like pretty bad, probably. Right? It's gonna be like a DH, like the bat might not be there anymore, and he's also like I told someone else this, you know, he's only like 26, but he's an old 26. He's been playing a lot of baseball, and he plays
high mileage
a year. Like he's not like your average 26-year-old that just got called up to the show or something. Like he's been going through it for a while. Like he might drop off earlier than others just because of that, maybe.
Yeah, I've been saying similar things. You know, Mike Trout came up early too, and you know, in his 30s, he's broken down, and he was a far better athlete overall than Juan Soto. Now, everybody's different, obviously, but you know, like we said, anything can happen. Julian, thanks for coming on to talk about the paths not taken. Everybody follow Julian on X, and you've got a YouTube channel still, right? Dugout Station?
Yeah, we got that. I have a bunch of different things going on. Check out Latino Sports, and I'll just leave it at that. But I'll tell you on the side other things too. But yeah, I'm not going to bore all your listeners. But thanks, everyone. Follow me, and you'll see what's going on.
Appreciate it, Julian. Thanks a lot. All right, you guys are not rid of me yet. We do have one more thing to get to, and that is a voicemail that is kind of a supplement to the topic we talked about tonight.
I had one submission for your alternate timeline show, Kenny Rogers for Greg Vaughn in 1997.
Yes, Kenny Rogers for Greg Vaughn, the deal that was nearly consummated, but Greg Vaughn failed his physical, and so the Yankees basically backed out of the deal at the last second. It was at the point where Kenny Rogers was shaking everybody's hand in the dugout. He was on his way out the door. And then Greg Vaughn the next year hit 50 home runs for the Padres. So, you know, what's the Padres timeline look like? Do they make it back to the World Series if they don't have Greg Vaughn, if they have Kenny Rogers? And then Kenny Rogers ended up getting traded to the Oakland A's for Scott Brosius, who won the 1998 World Series MVP against Greg Vaughn and the Padres. Hey, while I've got you here, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Pinstripe Territory is the official Yankees podcast of the Foul Territory Network. We are home to the #1 most watched MLB postgame show on YouTube since 2021. We're here after every Yankees game and for reactions to all the best news and rumors during the offseason. Be a part of the show by calling into the voicemail 718-899-1068. Try to keep it clean for me. And if you ever miss us on YouTube, be sure and subscribe on all your favorite podcast platforms. Go ahead and rate us 5 stars. It'll help other people find the show. Thanks for watching. See ya.